This is Top Accolade African News Updates. I am Soybifa Jackrich. Nigerian's president has delivered his first budget since taking office. As the country faces a deepening cost of living crisis, he announced government plans to spend 27.5 trillion naira, that is $34.85 billion, in the new financial year. Bola Ahmed Tinubu said the plans would attract investments, offering renewed hope during tough economic times. Mr. Tinubu had called for patience after inflation skyrocketed following an ambitious set of reform policies after winning disputed elections with 37% of the votes back in May. He shocked many Nigerians in his inaugural address when, in and off the court remark, he scrapped a decade-old fuel subsidy. The move led to a sharp rise in the price of fuel and other goods, worsening the cost of living crisis for many. Mr. Tinubu also scrapped foreign exchange controls, which also contributed to pushing up inflation to its highest levels in nearly 2 decades at 25%. The value of naira fell, increasing the cost of imports and making it more difficult to pay off international loans. But Mr. Tinubu stood by his decision, saying the fuel subsidy had proven to be harmful to the economy. He insisted the budget's impact on the cost of living crisis would be temporary and has repeated calls for patience, saying the move would benefit the country in the long term and attract more foreign investments. Years of touring have taken their toll on Nigerian singer Rema, who says he is now cancelling all performances in December to focus on his health. The Afrobeat star announced the decision on Wednesday on Instagram, saying, "It breaks my heart." Rema is best known internationally for his hit song Calm Down, which has smashed multiple streaming and chart records. The 23-year-old, whose real name is Divine Ikubo, recently gave a dramatic performance at London's 2000-seater O2 Arena, entering on a carousel pony. He used the occasion to draw attention to the Benin bronzes, which are 19th century artifacts of huge cultural significance that were looted by British colonialists, and many of which remain in the British Museum today. All the bronzes sit in the museum of this very city, so I remade mine, Rema said on social media, explaining the visuals in his London show. His now cancelled tour dates for December were booked for the Nigerian cities of Abuja, Benin, and Lagos. He was also billed to perform at the Hey Neighbor Festival in South Africa on 9th December. It is not clear whether fans who have already bought tickets will be refunded or have their tickets carried over to new dates in 2024. The Somali authorities say more than 1 million people have now been forced to abandon their homes in the country due to fraud caused by the El Nino weather phenomenon. The heaviest rain in more than 2 decades have caused widespread displacement and deaths across the Horn of Africa. It comes as world leaders gather in Dubai to discuss the climate crisis at the COP28 summit. At least 270 people are reported to have died in Somalia, Kenya, and Southern Ethiopia, as the continental region, which is just coming out of prolonged droughts, braces for further torrential rains. In Somalia alone, more than 100 people have died in flash floods. Whole towns have been submerged, forcing nearly their entire population to seek shelter elsewhere. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has said the country is in critical state. Neighboring Ethiopia and Kenya are also dealing with widespread floods. The situation is expected to get more dire as heavy rains are predicted to continue to early next year. The World Food Programme says the situation compounds the food security crisis in the region. There are also fears of disease outbreaks. Humanitarian organizations are calling on world leaders meeting at COP28 to remember countries like those in the Horn of Africa, which are vulnerable to the effects of climate change while contributing the latest to it. At least 23 people have died in a new cholera outbreak that hit communities displaced by recent flood in eastern Ethiopia, the charity Save the Children says. In a statement on Thursday, the UK-based relief agency has said more than 770 cases of cholera have been confirmed in just 2 weeks in the Somali region. The area was hit by the recent flooding and unusually heavy rains. The downpour affected 1.5 million people across the country, with the numbers forced to leave their homes reaching 600,000, the UN said. But only 10% of those affected are currently receiving aid as Ethiopia continues to struggle with gaps in funding, it added. More than 90 districts across Ethiopia have reported cases of cholera, with Save the Children warning the situation would worsen as more rains are expected in at least 3 regions. The heavy rains that hit Ethiopia along with Somalia and Kenya are induced by the El Nino weather phenomenon as well as another known as the Indian Ocean Dipole. That is the size of top accolade African news update. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Thursday.